Welcome to the office.
Can I have one?
In office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my door?
Wherever you want it to be.
Does it come with a secretary? Wait, executive assistant? What?
Executive assistant?
Executive assistant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the tree.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I found out that secretary was no longer a proper term while knocking on doors. Referring to somebody as a secretary. And I was very firmly told, like, we don't say that anymore. Like, she's an executive assistant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's like, oh.
Wait, what were you knocking on doors for?
That was when I was doing commercial real estate.
Nice.
Yeah. So
You knocked on the door.
walking on, like, knocking on office door buildings and walking into reception and then saying whatever I had to say to the front desk.
Assistant. The EA, the front desk.
Yeah. In order to speak to, usually I wanted the CFO, because the CEO usually had enough, I mean, it really just depends. Sometimes the cool guy is the CEO, but usually the CEO is like, know exactly who you are, and they're like, I have absolutely no fucking time for you. But sometimes the CFO is like a little nerdier, and a little more apologetic. It really depends, but.
And what, you're trying to sell office space or rent office space?
Yeah. Basically, the reason you're knocking on the door is because everybody in those buildings is leasing their space.
Yeah.
And so you want to become their broker or at least figure out when their lease is expiring and see if you can get a copy of the lease and then try to get more sale angles from that, put them into a sales force and keep hitting them. Yeah.
So figure out how to have them as a client, and then when their lease is expiring, re-sign their lease or bring them into a new office or
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on the other end of that.
Yeah.
A few times, yeah.
Yeah.
As an executive assistant.
Would you be offended if I called you a secretary?
Yeah, but mostly because that wasn't really my role.
Got it. What's
Like,
the
I
is it
wasn't
not
even-
just like a nicer word for secretary, or is there a difference?
I think there's multiple different roles that you like can have overlap. So like when I was doing it, I wasn't even an executive assistant. I was my title was CEO associate. And yeah, exactly. Titles are made up across the board. Titles are made up. Names are made up. But the idea was that the CEO had a bunch of stuff that needed organizing and needed doing, and some of it was personal, for sure. So like that is traditionally secretary work, right?
Right.
And then some of it is like executive assistant, which is like an assistant to an executive, and some of it is, say, PA work, like personal assistant, which depending on like what the person does and what the jobs are that need to be done. And then CEO associate was like sort of that, a lot of that stuff, and also sorting out the office lease and running projects and this and this and this and this, just kind of like having your fingers in lots of pies,
Yeah.
so to speak. And then there's like chief of staff, which is kind of another, I would see these as, if they're Pokemon, they're like, you evolve from being one to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's just like levels of responsibility, right?
Right.
You could also see like a COO is like the most senior version of this role.
Okay.
Although depending on the company, the roles are vastly different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I've never thought of that before as a COO being like, in Pokemon terms, like mega evolution, executive assistant. But after thinking about the COOs that I know, it's kind of that.
It's very operational.
Yeah.
Like I don't think most COOs would love that description. And I think it's pretty inaccurate really, but the evolution is from, as I see it, going and doing tasks that you're told to do, to having more and more responsibility until you're making decisions and outsourcing tasks, but it is very operational.
Yeah, you're dealing with the same tasks, but your posture towards it and your level of authority are completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your skills often change. Planning, communication, a lot of the time just being able to understand what needs to happen and understand the actual time scale and the granularity of the tasks that go into something is like a real skill that a lot of people don't necessarily hold, that zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah. I think between a COO and a executive assistant, the primary difference may be a personality characteristic that could develop, but might be something that's more static,
Interesting.
Because I think that aside from vastly different stages from our lives, there are people who are employees and there are people who are executives.
I agree, but I think that it's not static.
It's not static, but I think that you have to be in a different phase of your life. Yeah. It's not something that you just be like, hey, you're the COO now, come in tomorrow and it's your show. Yeah. It's going to take you 6 months to push yourself against that wall, which is great if you're in a work environment where somebody wants to develop you and give you the opportunity to do that in their work environment, but it's usually not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I am vaguely aware of this, but for anyone who's not, it's so funny because having a conversation like this, we obviously know each other.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's just us in the forest, but I also have a mind to whoever might listen to this. Yeah. How do you introduce yourself these days? I'd love to.
How do I introduce myself these days? How do I introduce myself these days, or how do I want to introduce myself right now in this moment?
How do you want to introduce yourself right now in this moment? What context should we
frame this conversation with?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm typically very careful with I am statements. So if I'm going to introduce myself, I'll say that I am many things. And I happen to do and have done a lot of things. Uh-huh. I think a little bit of context to what the breadth of my experience that brings me here to serendipitously recording a podcast in the forest is maybe a good seeds to plant for the conversation. So yeah, I have been in the military for 5 years, serving as a United States Navy hospital corpsman, which for a layman is essentially a combat medic for Marines.
Okay.
I, at one point in time, chose a major in neurobiology. I have no degree in anything. I've had several different majors, but I spent the most time with the neurobiology major and learned more about that topic from my own personal research that I was doing simultaneously while attending those courses. Mm-hmm. I have worked in the mental health field, both in the latter years of my military service and in the private sector following that. I've spent a lot of time getting familiar with working adjacent to or near psychedelic medicine as a tool for supplementing mental health. And yeah, so there's a lot of different passions in each of those different fields of experience that have had their time on the stage and definitely lend to the way that I view who I am, my sense of purpose, my relationship to other people, my relationship to where I'm going. And as far as present things, I mean, we were just talking about commercial real estate, but there's like plenty of things that I've glossed over in there that are just less salient.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had no idea about the commercial real estate
until moments ago. Yeah.
And that's why I thought I should ask this question now, because I'm sure that there are pockets of James' life that I have no fucking clue about.
As yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but as far as present things, I've got many plates spinning in different fields. I am establishing myself as a multi-local individual.
Nice.
Which
is this frame.
Which is an awesome euphemism for kind of homeless. Or another title could be political refugee of the United States, which is where I did grow up. And my favorite of all of the things is that we talked about this the other day, is I like to think of my life as an organized junk drawer.
Yeah.
And that it's very freeing to hold that conception. Because another thing that I think is extremely important in an introduction of myself is that the individual who has the presence and confidence to sit here barefoot on a log and play with sticks while in front of a camera is not the person that I was 6 years ago. In that, among all of those things, I think a big thread that has shaped who I am and and informed the decision to invest time in each of those things is that like I was a near suicidal, depressed individual about 6 years ago that was upsettingly awkward, right? And I still definitely have my awkward moments.
You mean
right?
You were upsettingly awkward?
Yeah. Oh. Like unbearably awkward, like not only for myself, but like I could even tell for like, just like putting in retrospect, I'm objectively awkward, right?
That's so funny, because that's not been my experience of you almost ever.
Thank you. Yeah. But I think that's testament to the framing of an introduction of myself in that, well, I don't consider myself done. I think the freedom of being able to recognize the organized junk drawer of things is a graduation from being in a posture of like trying to climb the ladder as quickly as possible with like a perfectionist mindset of trying to fit this sort of disorder into some conception of what I think I want to be, right? Which I progressively get to and then find out that it's not quite what I want to be.
Yeah.
But I love the junk drawer metaphor because it captures the number of different skills that I picked up from pursuing all these interests. Because the junk drawer is usually full of like very practical, useful things that you go to quite often. Yeah. And is constantly being like developed with different items. But is called a junk drawer because it's just a bunch of stuff that doesn't really belong anywhere else. And
you go, oh, I accidentally have this thing now. Yeah. Where should I put it? Oh, it goes here. Yeah. This is where it lives.
Yeah.
This is its home.
Yeah. And I guess the organized nature of it means that it doesn't necessarily all have to like structure together, but you know where it is, you know why it's there, you know where it came from, and in case you have like a use for it, you know where to find it and where to pick it up. Yeah.
I like this metaphor. I picked it up from you the other day and then started introducing it into conversations. Sometimes calling myself an organized junk drawer. I think it's a great metaphor for people. And sometimes calling other people an organized junk drawer.
First or after you've already called yourself an organized
Sometimes
junk drawer?
First calling them an organized junk drawer. It's like, yeah, you're an organized junk drawer just like all of us. And the reaction to it is unanimously, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I think there's probably some selection bias with the types of individuals that we associate with.
Yes, this is true.
Because the neurospicy ADHD folk managed to find each other pretty well.
Yeah.
But I would way rather be an organized junk drawer than like a fucking like silverware drawer. Like, that's so boring. Are you kidding?
It's also uniform.
Right? Like if there's a kitchen storage space, is there one that you'd rather be than the junk drawer?
No, I don't think so.
The pantry would be pretty good.
The pantry's pretty fun.
Because there's bread in there.
That's the reason?
Yeah, because there's bread in there. There's carbs.
I was thinking the cupboard that has all of the appliances.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I'm a bit of a sucker for a gadget. Like,
Yeah.
what's this for? Oh, it cooks bread, but really well. Like,
Right
yeah,
on.
you can use an oven to cook bread, but if you've got a bread maker, it's like a
Specialized
specialized...
instruments. A collection of specialized instruments.
And it depends on the kitchen, I guess, because you could have a really disorganized... Who says we need to be organized for a start?
I think that it's usually less, there's less suffering involved when your junk drawer is organized. Because let's say you need something from the junk drawer in a rush, and it's just a fucking pile. And you've been there, where you're like, I know it's in the drawer, but I'm fucking sorting through all the shit and making a mess and throwing it all over the fucking counter, and I can't find it. And then 10 minutes later, after you get frustrated, you're like, all right, I'm gonna look again. And then you find it.
I quite like the experience of, like, set the junk drawer aside for a second and substitute it for a handbag or a bag of some kind that just has all of the things that you might need. And sorting through that bag of like, oh, I know it's in here somewhere. I know that the thing that I need is in here somewhere. That's quite infuriating and fun experience.
I can't think of a worse experience. I have a $300 backpack because I did all the research on finding one that had the compartments exactly where I wanted them so that I could never do this experience ever again.
Nah, see, I think this is the difference in tolerance for chaos, maybe.
Ooh. I think I have a strong tolerance for chaos, so I'm going to refute that, but choose your chaos. Yeah.
Do you... When was the last time you felt like you're in a chaotic situation?
If we talk about most recent time, we're actually fairly proximal to said instance, which I don't know how explicit we need to get on the podcast, but...
Well, we can be as explicit as you like,
Okay.
but, you know, choose how much you feel like sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if we're talking about most recent, our mushroom trip here in this vicinity, in the surrounding areas, would definitely tick some boxes of chaos, particularly when we thought that I thought, I'm not going to give you any responsibility for that, I thought that I was capable of driving us to the beach and then decided very quickly after starting the car to pull over and wait a bit longer. But that honestly felt like controlled chaos. I feel like the question kind of has a curiosity about the last time that it felt like chaos was imposed upon me rather than being elected. And that was also not too long ago. And something that I'm still actively integrating and calibrating my mind space to, which was in Morocco when I thought I was helping somebody else step away from the edge of suicide. something that I felt particularly primed to be able to do,
Yeah.
who turned out to be, in my non-licensed but extremely informed opinion, a sociopath who scammed a shitload of money out of me, manipulating my desire to help and my desire to establish a business internationally. Yeah.
Chaotic.
Yeah. It's certainly chaotic. The appropriate term would be war, actually.
You mean it felt like war, or
I would say that it not only felt like war, but that today I feel like the part of me that volunteered to join the United States military, that has been seeking war, and by proxy of that, managing to kind of live in a sort of low-level state of war for years,
yeah,
has been satiated. I feel like I've had my war, and now I don't need any more part in that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
This is interesting, the frame of being in a low-level state of war for a long time.
Yeah. Do you think you can resonate with that or point to a time in your life where...
I think I'm really privileged to have not really experienced that. Growing up, I really didn't think that violence was an answer to anything. And I see that sometimes action and decisive action is an important thing, but it's not something that I've ever gravitated towards. It's not an experience I've been seeking ever. And when there is conflict, I generally am not putting myself in the middle of the conflict and choosing a different path. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to make the choice to not be.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are a lot less privileged to have that agency about whether they want to be involved in conflict.
Exactly.
Or action like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or not even just involved, but like collateral too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate that hasn't been a part of my particular experience, but I'm curious, like what it feels like because it's a spectrum of being completely immersed in it, right? And
it's definitely a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think the answer to starting to describe what it feels like also comes with a question to you that'll help me understand. Yeah, I think it'll help develop us in the right direction. So I would say that my sense of feeling like there was either an impending war or a looming war, and that in some way, shape, or form I had some sort of duty or role or obligation to be participating in it, comes from this like innate sensitivity to justice and injustice that I think I've had since a child.
Yeah.
And without going too far along that, I want to ask you, because I know that you're somebody that thinks a lot about the problems in the world and like the way that technology is potentially pushing us into deeper levels of either like informational war or other things, like things that you could put the title war on that are happening in the world right now, whether they're like violent combat or not, that you think about these ideas and that you're solution oriented, right, in these things. has it ever felt like in considering how your actions can impact the situation that there's an enemy?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
I think I've often I've been very cognizant of the way the information is structured, and that sometimes the enemy, often I believe that the enemy is fictional, or is informationally organized in that way, so that it's not possible to form it as a unit. For example, social media, the way that tech companies are kind of ambiguous in their morals, or that you can frame them as being a terrible tax on society and on mental health and on all of these things. But they're such large, complex systems that it's hard to frame it as an enemy, so to speak, although you could definitely frame it that way.
Yeah, because an enemy gives it, it personifies it as if it's like an unjust actor.
Exactly.
Right, in itself.
And I would argue that that is an unjust actor.
Yeah.
I would also say that some political systems, I think, are unjust actors that could be framed as enemies. But to take that level of complexity and to personally say that I'm at war with it is just maybe a way of me not engaging in that kind of combat, or not taking a side.
Yeah.
I'm often zooming right into the one-on-one personal experience, and in that experience I very rarely find myself in conflict.
Yeah.
But in the zoomed out experience, I find that I don't identify or value the way that a lot of our systems are set up. I just don't know how to individually influence it, and maybe it's a cop-out,
I mean, I think whether or not I don't think anybody knows, right? Nobody knows before the solution. I think it's just being in the posture of asking the right questions and leaning into those things and bringing awareness to the mechanics of how these systems operate to the detriment of, we'll call it humans, right? And yeah, if you personify something like social media, I guess it kind of makes it easy to because that's something I definitely learned from going to war, is that nobody wins. War's just terrible, dude. Nobody wins.
Lose.
And I do think that it's a uniquely human thing, war. Because while in nature, there are definitely species that have conflict, right? And you could argue that chimps maybe go to war, because you'll have tribes that'll run out other tribes for territory, and it'll be kind of warlike.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's uniquely human in the sense that for a chimp, as far as we know, it's still just survival. It's still just a means to pass on its genes, and it's not holding on to hatred, and tickling some weird dark ego spirit of making somebody suffer that you believe is evil, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of something that comes down to vilifying another human or group of humans as the enemy. I don't think that even chimps do that. And I know that I don't know. But I imagine that ants don't do that. Yeah. I'm pretty certain trees don't do that. even when they're overtaking another species' territory, right? They're just kind of doing what they're doing.
Yeah. It doesn't have an intention behind it.
Right. And so I think that something like social media is a product of the narrower aspects of human nature that manifest themselves into human technologies, right? Things like greed, ambivalence, indifference, right? And I think that the systems that we have, both political and economical, unfortunately allow very lucrative and extractable paths for those narrower aspects of humans, which will always be present and have always been present, to exert like unreasonable amounts of leverage over the rest of the human population. And that's why we have systems like this. And
yeah,
you know, I'm only 28. You're not much older, right? So I don't have like the 60 years to say that we really are at like a critical mass moment. But that's how it intuitively feels to me, that things have gotten to a point where something has to give, something has to change, which makes me optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. To me, it's what it makes me think of is the social contract. The social contract has been changing throughout our lives. I'm going to climb on this rock over here.
I'm going to get us some water.
Okay. So, like, if we go back to Industrial Revolution, before that the social contract was much less less structured in the way that less systematized, I'm going to say. And I think we're just getting a greater concentration of wealth and of power, and like these things are shifting and shifting faster than we're used to.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in the context of the Industrial Revolution, because that's kind of a point that seems like a similar pivot point to what we're at now. This is just a great deal more leverage.
I would say invasive too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, touching different aspects of what humans do or did.
Yeah.
And the reason that was difficult is because we used to have these agreements between people that, like, I would hand make a chair, and that would be worth something to somebody, and then those all changed, those values all changed, and so the way that I spent my time, that value kind of changed. And that's happening again now. But I say this because I think that in these pivotal moments, a lot of what we come back to is conflict, or a lot of what we come back to is safety and power, and the crux of that is often force. And so in a pivotal moment like this, I'm interested in how different people and like kind of power structures shift. I think we're at a point where there's the potential for a lot of change and positive change.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of places. This is the type of shit I love to talk about. And also, I don't think that you necessarily need to do your own introductions on your own podcast, because that would be a little bit redundant. But I do just want to say hats off to you for taking the leap and starting to have these conversations in like a in a way that, and we talked about this a little bit, that puts the like sort of creative constraint or pressure on human dialogue such that it's more, what was the word that we use? It's more, like you impose kind of an element of necessity to where like when you put a camera on and you record something and you make a public audience to a conversation, people are more likely to, I guess it could make people more likely to put on a certain mask and be perceived a certain way. But I would say that generally the type of people that you bring on here, it makes people, like, I think they're all well-meaning people, and it makes people more apt to communicate very precisely and accurately to the truest version of their conception of what they're speaking about. So yeah. I think it's super important what you're doing.
Or whatever comes out. Like, I think the conversational nature of moments create this this opportunity to kind of explore and to not be correct every time. Like, I even think that like, context is important. Understanding where you're coming from is important, but I know that everyone that I have a conversation with has good intentions, and then a lot of the beautiful, creative, spontaneous ideas that come out are the product of two minds going back and forth. And credit to you being willing and able and facilitating a conversation in nature.
Yeah.
This, I think, is because we have lots of these conversations, right?
Yeah.
But this is an interesting way to start speaking about this and to do it in a setting that puts our human animals at ease.
When you described when you offered me the idea of making your podcast something that you exclusively, or at least try to do in nature, you offered that to the human that was not going to let that go. So, yeah, and I do think that it's like really important, and it's very overlapping and like, or at least directly adjacent to the thread that we were just following about like the reasons for and the decisions, the reasons for systems of power throughout history constantly getting to points where they sort of must evolve. And like you said, that the crux of that always seems to come down to safety and power and that sort of balance. And I think that the intention that you shared with me of facilitating these conversations in nature, especially because a lot of the guests that you bring on and the people that you share headspace with are individuals who are making their best effort to create things that do change the dynamic of the world. And they are all well-intentioned, right? From at least as far as we can tell. And like the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights were extremely well-intentioned. I'm positive of that. And they were a massive landmark in changing the way that humans organize themselves and what people thought was possible. Like the fact that all men are created equal. That was like, and that we find that self-evident. Like that was the least self-evident thing that anybody could ever fucking write in 1776, right? So I think that was like a massive leap forward, but it's also the same system that, like we talked about a moment ago, has been exploited to where now we have tech oligarchs, right? Like in the brains of 11 and 12-year-olds, right? And informing every decision that they make, and doing so like intentionally, if not. Is there a bird or is the log breaking?
No, the log's breaking.
No way. Man, I gotta lay off the fucking yogurt and granola,
heavy
bro.
Man, you gotta start working out.
Oh man, I went to the gym the other week, like I told you, for the second time this year.
Yeah.
Which is like far below my usual standards, because I was at war, and my body has not been fucking happy. Oh, that was to feel sore, to be able to like push myself up against like physical resistance in that way that I can like manipulate and overcome. Now, as I'm saying this, maybe I'm an individual that still has some war left in me, and maybe that's just part of my personality. But that's an aside. I have a question from following this thread about being in nature, right, in the context of these conversations, so that we can have this sort of feedback and grounding as we're talking about these ideas that shape the world. Is, do you think there will ever be a time when there is no war?
Ooh. Optimistically, yes.
With humans on the planet?
I'd like to make a distinction between war and conflict.
Yes. Okay.
And these are definitions that I'm pulling out of my understanding of these things, right? Conflict to me is two parties or individuals disagreeing over a decision or actions not being in alignment, right? And to me, conflict can be resolved. I would say that war is a systematic and dehumanizing tool to do something that is evil in nature, to eliminate something. And this is the first time that I'm saying that I'm trying to define war, because I think it's like
I think we can spend some time on this. I think we can go back and forth on the definition of war.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that humans need hard things and need to disagree. But I think that war is a manufactured thing for the betterment of a few, that if we had different resource allocations and different structures, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think war is a necessary. I don't think war is an inherently human thing.
This is the
Hit me.
This is the perfect time to talk about chimps and bonobos.
Yeah.
And I want to get on my soapbox for a minute and lay shame on whoever it was that wrote the history book and decided that humans were the descendants evolutionary of chimps rather than bonobos, given that we share the same percentage of DNA with both species. And that, for those who don't know, the main distinguishing thing between chimps and bonobos, other than their geographical isolation, is that chimps are violent in nature, or at least conflict-oriented in nature. That's the way that they decide their social order. And that bonobos would prefer to spend their time eating fruit and solving their conflict through sexual intercourse with each other. Even if it's male on male, they'll rub their balls together until they're no longer angry and resolve conflict that way. And that, definitely while humans have evolved through some landscapes that have been shaped by nature, that have disposed the human species to scarcity and lack, that the population today lives in what is mostly an overwhelming abundance, and that the scarcity is created by those select individuals who are looking to consolidate their power, whether it be, I mean, oil is an easy one, or fiat currency is another one, or informational hoarding and manipulation would be another one. And I think that you and I would be both very happy to identify as bonobos rather than chimps, because I think that we both prefer to fuck and eat fruit than we do to bash each other's brains against the wall.
Yes, definitely.
Which broaches an interesting question about whether, like, you know, whether or not war is something that we will ever see the end of, whether or not it's inevitable, and also how we define it. Is that an accurate comparison, like the delineation between chimps and bonobos, or is war part of human nature? Is it part of being in this paradox of being a biological individual with an ego that inevitably and routinely creates separation?
Separation, I think, is the key to it, and to me the antidote to war is seeing people as people, and that's why I describe war as a manipulation of people, because like when you're going to war, you're not going to war because you know who the other person is and you really don't like them. You're going to war against an ideal, or people who are going to war are going to protect something. Like the narratives around these are not usually we're going to go and conquer this thing, but maybe that is sometimes a human.
Well, let me just give you a very personal one.
Yeah.
Like when I decided to join the United States military and I thought that I wanted to go to war, the narrative that was in my head, you know, a lot of it probably put there, you know, intentionally, was that there was massive injustice being committed by terrorists who organized themselves under Al-Qaeda, and that they were individuals, a group of individuals who, because of their ideals, were willing to rape, behead, and hang people in the streets. People that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? But people nonetheless that were part of the human population. And for a number of other reasons, just like my experience even as a child predisposed me to operating and functioning well compared to my peers in high stress environments. So seeing that situation and recognizing this capacity in myself came with like a felt sense of duty to be, if someone has to go do it, and somebody does have to go do it, because we can't just let this go on.
No, you want to put a stop to this thing that is bad, that is happening.
Yeah. And if somebody should do it, somebody's got to do it. I have the tools. It should be me. Yeah.
I think this point of ideas that are given rather than arrived on by yourself. Again, it's the distinction between war and conflict. If it's within your vicinity, like I have never been in a physical fight in my life. I've been punched in the head.
Oh, that's shitty. Was it by a chimp or a bonobo?
It was trying to prevent a conflict, actually. Yeah. And I knew that the conflict was imminent, and I was pushing my friend out of the way to take them out of the line of somebody else who was leaving a party, and I knew that they had conflict. And I turned like this, and I saw a fist going bang and hit me in the side of the head. And then I was on the ground and whatever. But I feel that sense of duty, but only when it's like right there in my vicinity. I saw a couple having an argument recently, and they'd pulled over onto the side of the road, got off a scooter, and they were arguing, and I realized that the guy was big and being a little bit aggressive, and the girl was potentially vulnerable. And so I just went over and I stood nearby and I said, "Hey, are you guys okay?" And the guy came over and he was like, "Yeah, we're fine. And I was like, "No, I am just going to stay here to be a protective force, to not do anything specifically, but to like intervene in a way that hopefully de-escalates the situation."
Yeah.
And that is the kind of intervention that I think a lot of people like, that benefits people, is to de-escalate situations.
To have a third party come in and remind the two involved parties of like, hey, you're stuck in some sort of narrative, right? That is a narrative.
Yeah.
You're still two humans.
Yeah. And to try to level the power playing field. The reason that I went over there is because I realized that this guy had a lot more physical power and he potentially was being aggressive, and just my presence there was enough to de-escalate that,
yeah.
to balance it.
Yeah.
I didn't need to go and fight him, but I did need to make my presence known, and I needed to not have him tell me it's fine. She then was like, "No, it's okay, we're just fighting." And I said, "Okay." So I went and stood 100 meters away, but I was still keeping an eye.
Right.
And so that interaction with conflict.
Okay. This is good.
Yeah.
If you're finished with that thought.
Yeah.
So there's a difference in the quality of how my sense of duty towards conflict that was not my own varies from that. Which was that rather than to just show up, right, and de-escalate, I mean, in some capacity I wanted to go there and be a medic, right? So I wanted to come and support people who were involved, right? But there was definitely a large element of being like, what they are doing is justification for their death. I'm going to go there and I'm going to kill these people, and they will not be capable of ever doing that again. Which is something still to this day is like a question of like, is there a point? You know, is there a point where, like, you know, if you look to any of the spiritual stuff that we've both read plenty of, and you do, you know, and you spend enough time in the different planes of consciousness where, you know, all of the conflict seems silly, your answer from that place is always like, no, there's no reason that I ever need to kill somebody. Right. But when you're like when you're in the humanness of certain experiences, there's situations where it's like, are you going to tell me that if you are 20 meters away and you're holding a rifle and there's a man charging your wife with a knife, that you're not going to shoot to kill him?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so what's the root of that? I mean, at that point, that's a situation where we are, or the pressure, the necessity, that's where the conflict of that paradox of being a human that is capable of divine awareness, right, gets overridden by the biological
survival,
the biological individuation that we have, right, that we don't get rid of until we die. You know? And like from that framing, I'm like, oh, I couldn't tell you that whether or not the human species will figure out a structure that supports that space of divine awareness for such an overwhelming percentage of the population that we no longer end up in those situations, or if we'll obliterate ourselves before we ever reach that point. I couldn't tell you which way it's going to go.
It occurred to me when I was traveling at the time and I was going through New York, and Trump was elected in this was the most recent election.
Okay.
And to me it was a distinction between like the political right and the political left.
Mm-hmm.
And that the right seemed to be, and I know that these are very broad terms and I'm generalizing a lot here, but seemed to be faster to take up arms, to go and protest, to use conflict as a means of control and power, versus the spheres that I'm in that are very left-leaning. And when Trump won, there was some controversy over the election and the
Mm-hmm.
how close everything was, and people weren't taking to the streets. It wasn't in the nature of that that person with that political leaning, the left political leaning that says, we're going to go and fight this physically. It was like people were really quiet after Trump was elected. It wasn't like, let's take to the streets and do something about this right now. It was like, oh man, we need to figure out ways to support each other and to work within the system to change this so that next time it doesn't unfold this way.
Yeah.
But it was a real kind of realization that the tools that you have at your disposal and what you think will work in solving this problem, which I think the more we can understand each other and the more we can get closer politically, or at least understand what's important to one another, the more we can have this kind of discourse and this conversation, and the more divided we get in our thinking about how to solve problems and about how to structure things and about how to structure the world. If that gap gets too far, then conflict is the only option.
When that gap gets too far, the lens isn't able to focus on the human picture, right? You're only able to see the narratives and everything that are surrounding it.
Like if we can get close enough that we can have a conversation, then potentially we can talk through something and find a solution that works for both of us. But if we're too far divided in how we're thinking about a problem, then I reach a point individually that I say, oh no, you, James, have ideas that are too far away from my ideas. The only way to solve this is to either eliminate you or
silence you,
build something that is outside of you and that is completely disconnected.
It excludes you, yeah.
It excludes you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the left and right dynamic is one that I think is long antiquated.
Antiquated, yeah.
Yeah. And is probably one of the first things that we got to get rid of if we want to make, sustainable progress on finding better ways to get into discourse routinely and come up with solutions.
But this is the thing, is where you're never starting from a blank slate, right? So instead of saying let's wipe everything and start again, or let's we have to act from where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that I'm sometimes like stuck in a frame, or I'm caught in a frame, and I think that most people have this like kind of, you find yourself in a situation and then you act from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only see a certain number of possibilities. I think it's our responsibility to come up with alternatives to the norm, that instead of only going back to the same kind of solutions that we've had, it's our responsibility to be creative in the way that we structure alternatives or propose alternatives. It's a Buckminster Fuller.
Buckminster Fuller. It's a hell of a name that I'm not familiar with.
Oh man, Buckminster Fuller is a very interesting character.
Okay.
He's most famous for the geodesic dome, for basically in geometry coming up with a way of building modular housing, and he had all of these ideas about kind of regenerative agriculture and regenerative systems. He's a systems thinker from the 60s. And his kind of frame of we need to build things at the edges that allow, you can't change a system, but you can build something at the edge of a system that we can migrate into and start to replace the behaviors and the ideals and all of these things that we have with something new that has a connection to what we already know, but is a new way of doing something.
I love these concepts, and that's been a big part of the motivation for me. A big part of the driving force in me ending up with roots in Morocco was that, for further context, I guess, of an introduction of what I'm doing right now, is that I'm in the process of making myself multi-local. What I'm really doing is looking for these places, like these locations that have the cultural space, or at least the cultural development, to where there's ripe substrate for building something alternative, right? I think that, like in California, where I was previously living, that there's not a lot of room to build new things, for a number of factors that don't need the laundry list right now. But that the path forward is in having discourse with whatever individual, because there won't be a blank slate, but there might be a slate that still has room to draw, right? And then you got to get the people who are sitting around that slate to do it together, right? And get in like a habit and a practice of like not doing things because of the status quo, and really thinking hard about, okay, what is possible? What can we do today? What can we do tomorrow? How can we look at the structures of the past, and how can we adapt those? How can we keep parts of that and adapt those? And the thing is like that's like the most human thing. That's what we've been doing since the fucking get. And I think that we've been stuck kind of since the Industrial Revolution. Maybe that's like a good place to put it. That we've been stuck for a long time in like these tracks that is obviously getting exhausting.
Well, and for a lot of people, or at least a lot of people who have power and influence and are able to create these structures, it's been a really comfortable structure. Yeah. For a lot of people in a lot of places, life is good enough. And for people who life really is hard and sucks, they don't necessarily have the ability to change the system. So you get this weird separation between like the world that is being created and being the world that is being built is working for the people that are building it for the most part, but not necessarily working for everybody.
Yeah. Well, then you end up at Marx, right? Where eventually it gets so shitty that everybody becomes the people who are building it through a matter of violence and conflict. And
exactly. And it reaches a tipping point where things restructure. Yeah. And often the people who are benefiting the most let some steam out so that it still stays relatively I think we're reaching a point where, for a lot of people over the next kind of 5 years, that is going to completely change. And it comes back to this, the social contract. The social contract for a lot of people has been like good enough, right? But I think that, so to come back to this point of that it's our responsibility to make better alternatives. What we're competing against is the status quo, and there are better ways to distribute wealth. There are better ways to do certain things, but you have to make them accessible and you have to make them good enough so that people will move out of the status quo that is comfortable and into this new frame of living and working. And we've been doing that in a very individual way.
We have, and a couple of things. I want to frame this response. First, I can feel my attention starting to fade. So I think that this is a topic that we've beat a bit, and I think that I have one last question that I think deserves to be explored before we bookmark it. And then I have another question that is completely different that I'd love to dive into while we have the time and spaciousness. I just made a YouTube video at the beginning of the year, right before my war.
War, and wait, where you put your war in context, you went to Morocco.
Yeah, I went to Morocco, and on the way down, I decided, just mainly because of the desire to learn how to add more things to the junk drawer, build the skills of being able to share a narrative, because I think that narratives are, the important thing that stick with people, that allow people to understand the concepts and the information that we're talking about, so that people can see these futures, and that they can live with those and decide how they want to author their own narratives to be more in line with, something that's closer to an ideal. And in that video, I talked a lot about how this process is occurring where people are trying to build new things. And I focused a lot on the healing and spiritual community because I was in the orbit of that for a while, as a product of exploring the ways to develop my own, consciousness away from one of depression, which worked, right? But then something that became very apparent to me as I'm exploring these new places that are springing up is that we're doing so in such an individual fashion that we're bringing a lot of the consumerism and the structural things that we're running away from to these places that, because they're so culturally unprepared for this, get subordinated by our social contracts ridiculously quickly.
Exploited
Bali and Costa Rica are prime examples of that, right? Where there's lots of spiritual talk about, all of this presence and abundance and all of these things, but then the social responsibility is completely lacking. Right?
When it's not shared, the benefit of things not shared.
It's still hyper individual, right? And so my question that I want to bookmark this with for you is, where are the places, based off of your vast travel experience, that you see as having the best substrate for, or the best support for building these, pioneering at the cultural level?
From where I've been and what I've seen, I think there are a couple of parts to it. I think it's a false idea that you can go in and pioneer something.
Okay.
Or just that So the things that I think are important are that people are open-minded and kind and supportive. And what I realize in a lot of places that I've been is that those things are already in place. Like, you don't need to go and create a new thing in a lot of places. There are, like, take Bali for example. People in Bali are really welcoming and community oriented, and the friction is in going to a place and thinking that you know how to rebuild a community, when actually community is very abundant in a place like Bali.
Yeah.
And the reason that I, for example, wouldn't have community as soon as I go to Bali is because I don't speak Bahasa.
Yeah.
So that is my responsibility to, if I want to be a part of a community like that. Like, there are already communities in all sorts of places, and the ability to, like, go into a place like that and be a part of the community is on you adapting and adopting some of those practices already, rather than trying to impose your own idea of what that is. What I see in people going to places to, like, set up their own communities or their own kind of idea of, like, what the world that they would like to live in, is that if people are welcoming, it's very, very it's much easier.
Mm-hmm.
If the place is not prohibitively expensive, that allows the space for not needing to, like, go in and be productive straight away, so that you can spend time and energy,
That's huge,
thinking through how you would like to structure something. I see it more as, like, that there are these kind of melting pots of people who want to build new things, and they kind of sit in pools in different places. And cities, as much as I don't necessarily love them, they are often melting pots of really interesting people who want to put energy into changing things.
Mm-hmm.
And creating new ways of living and creating new things. So a lot of the time I see, like, London as one of these places. I see New York as one of these places. London is an amazing melting pot of people from all over Europe. Europe is generally quite it's got such a rich history that you see the history propagate throughout time, and then if people want to change things, they go to a place like London is a good example, where there are lots of people from all over Europe and all over the world who are coming to this place to create this new thing. Burning Man is a good example. It's people from all over the world who want to model a new way of interacting.
Yeah.
I think that it's very hard to create something new in a world that is so money driven.
Yeah.
Like, that is a constraint that kind of makes setting up something new really difficult, because it necessitates that you create resource and that you have the common language of money to make things happen. And if you work with those tools, then you can have some kind of space to create something new with a geo arbitrage, like earning money in a place like London and then going to somewhere like Bali and having the time and space to
appropriate that, allocate that.
Yeah, but there is definitely this often a disconnect between, like, going and planting yourself in a place and creating something that is entirely new, and the conversation with a lot of my friends in Lisbon is like, well, how do you go to a place and integrate with what's there and create that space for creating new things? To answer the question directly, I don't have one place that I think is amazing or like ideal for this. What I do see is that some places are more like fertile for like people are more optimistic or more willing to try living in a new way.
I think optimism and openness, are huge qualities in there. And what you said about being careful about pioneering is remarkably true. You know, I still see myself likely being concerned with this question for a lifetime. So I think that's something that I'm going to contribute to in certain ways. And I've resolved to search for the place that allows me to live the lifestyle that I know gives me access to the presence and open-mindedness in myself to be able to be an arbiter of making progress in whatever ways. But then in the same token, like an idea that I have for Morocco is I have the means and I have the space to bring, because I think that like friendly competition is really important for bridging the gap between the white immigrants and the very strong Moroccan culture there. And I have this idea for bringing baseball there, which is American as apple pie, right? But it works because there's not a lot of Americans there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Europeans who don't already have all the stories around that they do football, soccer, right? And Moroccans already have all their own stories around that, which creates too much of a wall, I think, to be able to have Europeans and Moroccans playing there. Whereas baseball is kind of a neutral ground for both of these groups. And it works because I know it and I'm willing to put in the effort to make it a thing. And I also think that baseball as a sport lends itself to Moroccan personality very well. So yes, I am bringing and imposing my own culture in a way, but I see the imposition of culture with this trend of whether it's a spiritual community or healing community of like more privileged Westerners coming into places that are cheap for the very fact that they are cheap, rather than that cheap allows them to build different, right? They're coming there because it's cheap primarily. Yeah. I see that as inevitable, right? So I see change and cultural blending as inevitable, and it's just, you know, there's intention behind it, and I mean, just like a lot of thoughtfulness and patience, and you know, like for me, the baseball thing is a great thing because it gets people sitting on a bench next to each other for hours. Yeah, you know,
this is what I'm talking about when I say I think we need alternatives, or we need things. We need neutral ground. We need spaces for connection, of having conversations. And should we have a fruit pause?
Fruit pause. It is. Yeah. Don't leave me hanging.
Oh.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh. I think if we put these mics just over here, we're going to pause for 5 minutes and eat some fruit.
So, I think that we have spent plenty of time being very serious.
Yes.
Yeah, very fucking sophisticated, serious men. And
did you hit record?
Oh yeah, it's recording. And I do have some more questions that I think could be considered serious, but I do think that we'll progress through them better if we shake some of the seriousness off. Yes. So first, I want. This is just what's coming to head right now. All about spontaneity. We're gonna rapid fire back and forth with ridiculous questions. You answer and then ask a return question, and okay. I'll start the volley with, "What's your favorite mollusk?"
Can you name a mollusk?
I'm pretty sure a cuttlefish is a mollusk.
Okay. My favorite mollusk.
If it's not technically a mollusk, I don't really care.
Okay. My favorite shellfish is it's called a pawa.
A paua?
Paua, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They grow in New Zealand. The American equivalent is an abalone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are they protected?
In New Zealand, you can fish them in most areas, not in some, and they have to be a certain size. I think it's like 120 millimeters, so like that big.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the States, they're heavily protected, very region-specific, very seasonal specific. They have to be, I think, much bigger
They
than
have
that.
to be huge.
They have to be huge.
But abalone are much bigger.
Oh,
anyway.
okay. Do they taste similarly?
I think they taste similarly. I think paua is more tasty because paua is delicious.
Okay.
You have to tenderize it. You like beat it with a rolling pin or something like that.
Right. You beat it off or beat it with a pin? Because the motion you gave me is very similar to what I do when I get too lonely and don't have the energy to go find a partner.
Either. User discretion. All right, I've got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about the relationship between smelling flowers? How would you connect smelling flowers with, how would you describe smelling a flower to somebody who doesn't have any sense of smell?
Damn, that's a fucking stumper right there. Man. All right, Ty. I just found out that you do not have a sense of smell. And first, I have to offer my deepest condolences.
No, I do.
No. I'm using you as my foil, as my surrogate, so that I can accomplish this mission.
Yes.
And first, I have to offer my deepest condolences, because while I thought that you were receiving the benefit of enjoying the concoction of brews that exits my my bowels on occasion while we're in each other's presence, you have been denied and you have been starved of that luxury.
But I don't know what I'm missing out on, so it's quite all right.
However, if I were to describe the experience of smelling a flower, it's like seeing it's like if you were to open your eyes, it's as if you were to walk out of the grocery store, right? Uh-huh. And you look inside your grocery bag to see what food you have.
Ooh.
But for some reason, the most gorgeous woman you have ever laid eyes on is just waiting for you in the bag and just caressing you and slowing you down, and just like complete nervous system status shift, where as soon as the scent comes in, you get this like feeling that's like relaxing and nurturing and also a little bit erotic.
It makes you stand up.
And it kind of makes you stand up. It makes you like inhale and your spine kind of corrects and you walk a little lighter and you're like, you just feel like full. Yeah.
I like that description. There's no substitute for smelling things, but if you had to, that's quite a good description.
Fuck yeah. We'll do one more each. If you woke up and you had, I was going to say $1 million, but that's not even any money anymore. Let's say you woke up tomorrow and you had $1 trillion, but you couldn't spend it. You had to give it to somebody in your family to spend. Who do you give it to?
Oh, man. Okay, so the first person that comes to mind is my granny.
Your granny.
but I don't know if she would spend it. I don't know if
She just put it under her fucking mattress or what?
maybe, yeah.
It's in cash, so there's a
It's
burden.
in cash? I'd have to give it to someone with a shed.
So there's a burden to keeping it.
Oh, man. Who would I give it to in my family? You know, I would give it to my little sister Poppy.
Poppy. How old is Poppy?
Poppy is 27.
Ooh, is Poppy hot?
Poppy's adorable. And she's whimsical and wants to see the best in the world everywhere. And first of all, I think she'd be very overwhelmed by she'll be like, I need help with this. She'll be like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I think she would spend her time going to like different parts of the world, finding like gardens and like community projects and funding them all.
I love it.
Yeah. Are you growing things? Yeah. You're making things? Yeah. She would be like the perfect arbiter of this fund in a way that would just create whimsical, lovely...
Beautiful things.
Beautiful things, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Does she live in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Cool.
Is she from New Zealand? Or is she in New Zealand?
Both.
She's from New Zealand, and she is right now in Thailand, I think.
Does she travel similarly to you, to where she's sort of nomadic?
She really likes to be grounded.
Yeah.
Recently, she's been living in Australia.
Okay.
She was working for Uber for quite a long time, and she's just left and started traveling.
Right on.
And yeah, she wants to come and stay with me in Portugal. And I'm like, sweet, I'm not going to be there.
She should definitely come here, though.
She should definitely come here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's following her traveler's dream. She wants to have a garden and make things and
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's really fun and sweet.
Okay.
Okay. Why is dancing your chosen form of movement outlet?
I don't know if it's my primary chosen form of movement outlet, but I feel like it's a necessary part of my movement diet.
Sorry, that's not a very silly question, is it?
It's not particularly silly, no.
I can
The
make it
dancing can be silly, but...
I can make it sillier. If you had to... Yeah, hit me. If you had to create a music video, who or what genre would it be for, and what kind of music video would you produce?
Oh, this is a good one. This is a really good one. I would produce the music video for... Who needs a music video? So maybe I don't want to step on the territory of giants who already got a good thing going. Maybe I do.
Completely free reign. Assume that they're not going to hear you're stepping on there.
Okay. Okay. I would create a music video for... Damn. Okay, that's what's coming to mind. I don't know if it's necessarily the most creative that I could do if I sat on this, but I would create a music video for an Irish punk band.
Oh, yeah.
And the music video would be loving violence which is what I think the Irish and people who appreciate punk are the best at. So it would be like, and it would be in public, and we would do it all live. None of it would be scripted. None of it would have actors. It would all be the band with instruments, singing and playing music while committing acts of violence in public.
How are they dressed?
Bikinis. Bikinis and combat boots. With
Bikinis
spikes.
and combat boots with spikes.
Yeah.
That's so silly. All right. In the vein of silliness, I'd like to play a game.
Hit me, doctor.
Doctor. You told me the etymology of this. Will you
Re-explain the etymology of this?
Yeah.
Okay. The the bestowment of the title of doctor to my comrades, associates, and peers comes from high school, and I love that it's just managed to stay in my lexicon because, my high school group of friends picked it up from a very Indian convenience store owner in our hometown who called everybody who walked in that store doctor. And so we started using it to each other, and now I think that it's like it's just silly enough to use casually, especially in like text messages where people receive it and they're like, huh? But they don't really question it, but I know that they read it and they go, huh? And I love that it almost always just like makes people like a little bit curious, but not curious enough to ask. And the even funnier thing that I didn't actually tell you is that as of a week ago, not even a week ago, one of the friends in that group just got his PhD in astrophysics. So now he is appropriately the only doctor in the group. I was the closest before because I was a medic, and people called me doctor, even though I was not at all qualified for that.
What do you think the difference between a medic and a MD is?
What?
I'm asking because I have medical doctor friends in New Zealand, so they haven't been through the American medical system, but they have described their jobs, and it's a very human job. It's a very like, this is the situation and this is the best I can do.
Okay. Well, military healthcare is kind of a separate beast than private healthcare because it's a little bit less burdened by insurance. And insurance is what really, like most doctors in the US, in my experience, are in a position where their hands are really tied to where they can only really do what the insurance says they can do. Since military funding is paying the doctors that are in military hospitals, they have a little bit more discretion, which I do think, I mean, they're also government employees, right? So you get both sides of the spectrum. You get the fucking guys who are still the fat doctors who don't really give that much of a shit and are just doing what they've known for the last 20 years and aren't that curious about what is, you know, the responsibility of a doctor, which is to stay on top of the medical science, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have doctors who, because of, they like the fact that they're a military doctor because they have the discretion to treat their patients better, even if it's not necessarily what the insurance company would say.
Yeah.
But to describe the difference between a military medic, at least in my experience, and a doctor, is one is a cowboy and one is a nerd. and that's kind of in the nature of the job description of being a medic, because like, especially in the roles that I was in, I would be the senior medical personnel, like person on staff, in the middle of nowhere, responsible for the lives of like 200 people.
Wow.
Right? So like if shit happens, I have some training in what a licensed doctor would be the appropriate person to perform, and enough training and enough responsibility and the sense of necessity to where I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
But if I told a doctor, like when I tell licensed medical professionals some of the shit that I've done, they're like, huh? That is so irresponsible. I'm like, ugh.
what do you do in this situation?
What do you do?
Yeah, that's the feedback that I've got from friends that I went to university with who are now doctors. Sometimes I hear their stories, and it's like, it's really humbling. They're like, oh, like this situation was happening, and I did the best that I could. I like made the decision that I could. When I have the resource, if I don't know what to do, I can call someone, but sometimes that's not the case because it's the middle of the night and somebody in a hospital needs like a decision to be made right now.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah. You get
night and day.
Like, to give it the reverence that the people who work in medical positions deserve. Like, you get put in some tough spots when you're making those calls.
Yeah.
Like the gore and like the messiness of it. I think most medics dissociate from that in sometimes healthy, sometimes not so healthy ways.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing that they live with is I made that call. You know, and that one's really hard to wrap your head around sometimes. Yeah.
But it's the kind of, I think it's a skill that a lot of people could benefit from, is like, hey, I made this call and I'm gonna, and I need to live with it. I'm gonna.
And I know that I did my best.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right, game. So this game is about our best guess at, I think we played this game the other day. So our best guess at a particular number. So we come up with something that happens relatively often, or so. I kind of know this number, so I don't think we should use it. But like, for example, number of tourists to visit Portugal in a year.
Oh, okay.
And then we bet.
Pick a range.
We pick a range, and we shorten the range until one of us doesn't want to shorten the range anymore. And then you decide what you think the range is.
Okay.
So, in the interest of silliness, this number also needs to be verifiable.
Okay. Yeah.
So, in the interest of silliness, I think we should, and right now we don't have any reception, so there's actually probably no way to verify
till later.
Number, so we're just going to guess at it, and we can check afterwards.
Yeah.
The number of the number of surfers in the world, the number of people who have been surfing in the world.
Alive today?
Alive today.
Alive today. Oh. That's a very hard number to verify.
It's a very hard number to verify. I don't think we're going to be able to verify it, but I think that we could do like some kind of math on it, saying like, all right, this is the population, this is the...
We could expand.
We can expand and approximate it.
Yeah, okay.
But before we do any thinking about it, we just got to ballpark it right now. So I think that I can guess it within 100,000. That's very small, isn't it?
It's very small. That's audacious.
I think I can guess it within 1 million.
Within 1 million? I can do it within 500,000.
Do you have a number in mind?
Do you want to settle there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You make it.
Okay. I'm going to guess that the number is... $10.7 million.
You think it's 10.7 million? So a range on either side of that of 500,000?
No, I need to pick the range. I think it's between 10.5 and 11.
10.5 and 11 million. Alive today. Ooh. I think it's No, I think it's lower than that.
Yeah.
The population of Australia is like 32 million. And
You think
I reckon
30% of Australians?
I think more than 10 points. I think more than 11 million. I think
Just Australia?
Well, if you
Or
think
no?
about just Australia, how many Australians have probably been surfing?
You're right. Probably like 5 million, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like we won't be able to verify this, but so that's just.
I need to add a
Australia.
0.
Yeah, exactly. Such an interesting game to play though, and to try and quantify big numbers.
Because we really have no fucking conception of these things.
No.
Do
you know the difference between, or how to conceptualize the difference between a million and a billion?
I would think about putting physical objects in a room.
Yeah.
Like maybe even money would be a good one. Like I think $1 million would probably take up like half of an armored truck if they were $100 notes.
Okay.
And I think $1 billion would take up like a 8,000 square foot warehouse.
Yeah, I think
with like 12-foot ceilings.
I think multiple wise, you're pretty ballpark accurate. Accurate's a weird word to use there, but so I've heard it conceptualized as time.
Ooh.
So 1 million seconds is like I think I might be an order of magnitude off. It's something like 11 days, or yeah, it's something like 11 days, but that doesn't feel right.
Okay.
At all.
It's so arbitrary.
So I'm misrepresenting this, but 1 billion seconds is like 32 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when we talk about big numbers, when we talk about population sizes and we talk about money, like the difference between 1 million and 1 billion is huge.
Okay. I think that would be an interesting idea if we use the money thing and we actually get a verification of how much space it would take to deliver Poppy $1 trillion of $100 bills.
$1 trillion $100 bills?
Not $1 trillion $100 bills, but $1 trillion of $100 bills.
Of $100 bills?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can verify that. But using the context of how we try to comprehend obscenely large things from our narrow human perspective, I do have a question that's a little bit more on a serious note, but I think carrying the silliness and the fact that it's also personal will give us grace. There is a question that you begged while we were deep in the mushroom portal of what does it mean to belong? And I imagine that you have sat with that question since then and during that experience. And I would love if we could take a stab at it. I would love to hear you take a stab at what it means to belong as you sit on this rock that you look like you belong on very much.
Belonging. Yeah.
And if you want to give narrative background, like you take that question and play with it as much as you want.
I have been sitting with this for the last week.
Huh.
And kind of where I've landed, at least for myself, is that belonging is isn't so much a feeling as it is a choice.
I love that answer.
And that it's not solely dependent on you. Or it's one of those things that you can... there's this idea of the locus of control.
Okay.
and they talk about this in psychology, whether or not you have an internal or external locus of control. So an external locus of control is what you see often if somebody has a bit of a victim mindset. Things outside of me happen and I don't have control over that. So I'm at the whim of things that happen. And an internal locus of control is I believe that I have the ability to be autonomous and have agency in the world. And how it relates to belonging is, I think part of it is that it's an it's an internal locus of control frame of it's a choice. I decide that I belong and that I take up space, and in doing that, belonging becomes a very personal thing, and you can feel it, and then you can do things to feel like you belong. And the things that I've come to in that realm are like, I can give back to the place that I'm in. I can do activities that make me feel really at home in a place, really grounded in a place, because I travel constantly. This sense of belonging is kind of like I belong in a space and time. I belong in a routine. I belong in a context. I belong to people and to stories, and I belong to all of these things. But I get to choose what I give away, sort of. Like, I had this experience of being next to a rock and like connecting with the physical rock.
Is this while we were parked on the side of the road because I decided I was too high to drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when I left, I was like, oh, I belong here. I belong like in nature. And then I left the rock, and as I was walking away from it, I realized that I left a small part of me with the rock, that like part of me belongs in that natural setting.
So that part of that choice is a process of like self-deposition. Yeah.
Yeah. Choosing where you leave a mark, or where you leave some of your energy.
And there's some vulnerability with it too.
Yeah.
Because by depositing a portion of yourself, of your heart, right, you're in the internal locus of control in making that decision to put it there, but you're also making a conscious decision to take some of your internal locus of control and make it external.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then the part that is external is sometimes people give you the feeling of belonging by telling you belong here, or a place might make you feel like you belong in the place, or a certain group of people might make you feel like you belong by giving you a space. And there's a difference between waiting for people to tell you that you belong somewhere and deciding to allow that in, or deciding to ask for the
space
to belong there.
Yeah.
And it's a different thing to feeling welcome, because you can feel like you're welcome in a lot of places, but it's a different kind of experience to belonging.
When you're welcome, you're still a visitor.
Yeah.
When you belong, you live there. You're a resident.
You're a resident, but I think that you can, like, there are different kind of spaces or different mediums that you can belong to. You can belong in a place.
Definitely.
But you can also belong to a story, and I think that is a much more stable, at least for me, definition of this idea of belonging, because there's always going to be shifting things, and there will always be shifting kind of places,
characters,
and all of these things. And to think that you belong to a place is actually that you belong in the story of that place.
Beautiful answer, man. Well fucking done. Like, and I love it because so many places that I think we could jump off from here, and they all seem super fun. There's one that I think I'm going to save for a little bit later. But to keep it personal, because I think that this is really juicy. Are you sharing your rock with me, man?
Yeah.
I'd love to try this rock out. Wow, what a fucking rock.
It's a good rock, isn't it?
It sure is. I put my butt on it. Do you, in the context of belonging to a story and in the dynamics of a story and characters, do you feel like you belong to a certain character? At least for now?
For now, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I belong... I feel like, yeah, in the same vein, belonging is kind of a like... It doesn't have a time aspect to it. Belonging is just the thing that is, right?
Yeah.
But then if you think about yourself as the character in this, is that you're the character that belongs in this story, that there are kind of different ways that you can, you can change your identity and your character, and everything can shift, but you physically can belong to any version of that.
Yeah.
That story or that identity.
Yeah.
And really, to me, it's like a question of stability. Like, do I have a thing that I return to, that I, how do you think about the story of your belonging?
I'm an organized junk drawer, man. And I think that I come back to that because I think that comes with a lot of belonging. Because I think that, like I described earlier, that posture of trying to be anything other than an organized junk drawer, that might graduate this metaphor, right? But right now I'm pretty content with this being stable for a while.
Yeah.
Which is new. I think the posture of trying to be anything other than an organized junk drawer is setting yourself up for failure in the context of belonging. Because the goalposts are always moving, right? And a junk drawer has room for the goalposts to move while still being a junk drawer.
I think you need a Mary Poppins junk drawer. You know what I mean?
No.
You know what a Mary Poppins bag is?
No.
Have you seen the movie Mary Poppins?
I don't think I have, actually.
Ah, okay. This is a critical piece of pop culture, sort of. So the movie Mary Poppins is about this nanny who is a magical character, basically, who arrives by floating down. It's a musical. And she arrives by floating down with her umbrella. And then she arrives to look after these children. I think, I haven't seen it in a long, long time. And when she arrives, she has this bag, which is like a leather duffel bag, sort of, and she opens it and she starts pulling things out, and it's just like an endless, it's like the biggest bag you can imagine.
She's a nanny, right?
She's a nanny, yeah. Okay. She like comes to look after these kids, and out of her bag she opens it, and the bit that I remember is that she starts pulling out a coat rack, like a 6 foot tall coat rack, and the bag is like 2 feet by a foot tall, and she opens it, and then she's going like this, and it's like a clown car kind of experience. So what I mean is that when I think of an organized junk drawer, the drawer is, you know, small, but you can put so many things in there.
Yeah,
That
it's endless.
that's got endless capacity.
Right on. Okay. There's another thread that I want to pull on with this one, which is, I think there's we owe it to speak to the dynamics or kinetics of choice. If we're like really tamping belonging down with choice, in the choosing something means saying no to basically everything else.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a ton of sacrifice involved. And I think that, you know, we're fairly familiar with that. In your response, I can hear that we both understand the gravity of what it means to be individuals who are very privileged to have a ton of options in every sense, right? In geography, in career, in purpose, in the way that we spend our time and the people that we spend our time with. And this is something that I've been percolating on, marinating in, is putting words to the return that you get, other than just belonging, right? Because I think that it's so much more, it has so much more contour. The return that you get from choosing something. And like, when I start to orient myself towards like conceptualizing this, like I have that very salient example of when we were up on that viewpoint and seeing this mountain descend into the beach in the city and seeing like horses playing and just this perfect lighting, and it's spring, so the nature is just fucking luscious, bodacious, like so good, right? And for me, like I talk about that choice, and I think it goes hand in hand, like if we're talking about the dynamics of it, with like masculine and feminine polarities, and like in the sense that, you know, in relationship is, you know, very easy to, a very salient example of like men are typically in a position where they're the ones claiming, right? And then that affords the space and the container for a relationship, and then a relationship between two people who love each other and have that security of claiming proliferates into so many things that only that choosing in that container can support. Cannot be done alone, right? Yeah. Cannot be done by either person in solitude. And so by saying that, I mean to gesture in the direction that the description that I want you to give your perspective from is something that for me feels very like poetic in a sense. It's not very objective. Yeah. But I know that it has its value. Yeah.
What is the feeling that you get when you think about making a choice like that? When you think about choosing?
I think that right now I'm in like a season or an age of making these choices. And I think that I have given myself the permission that I don't need to be correct in my first choice.
Yeah.
Right? That the process of choosing and following with sincerity is the process of making better choices.
Yeah.
So I feel very attracted to making these types of choices and choosing relationships, places, dynamics, situations where I can like really invest myself into them. And I think that before I was definitely, like there was a lot of that, like I think that the fear of the sacrifice has definitely prevented me from choosing things that have depth. But I think that I've had so much breadth that there's like instinctual desire to choose to choose specific things because I'm aware and it's imprinted into my nervous system that's where the depth that I really crave is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this experience of realizing that, first of all, not making a choice is, or prolonging making a choice is a privileged position to be in. And you can see that as an example in careers. If you can afford to, say, go to university, what you're doing is broadening your ability to see your choices and broadening what choices you can make at the cost of not being productive straight away,
Yeah.
right? So if you can afford to not make a choice, that's a place to be in that allows you to make better choices. But then you're in the space of not moving. At some point it becomes kind of static.
Yeah.
And it's like an action thing. It's moving forward. Making a choice lets you then be in a position to make more choices and more decisions. And most things are reversible that we don't realize.
Not all things, but most things.
Not all things. Definitely
Yeah.
not all things.
Yeah.
And there's, so I really like behavioral economics. And I'll answer this from a personal place, but first I want to answer it from a behavioral economics psychology spot. There's a study where they take a group of people, they take two groups of people, and they have 5 different pieces of art.
Okay.
And they say, okay, we want you to come in and do this experiment with us. And at the end, they give them one of the pieces of art as a gift, right? And they say to one of the groups of people, hey, you can, and the people think that the experiment itself, that the art is not part of the experiment, it's just a way to compensate them for their time.
Yeah.
But the experiment is actually about the art. So they say to half the people, you can choose one of these 5 pieces of art and take it home with you. And in 3 months' time, if you'd like to change your mind and you'd like to take it, you'd like to swap it out for a different piece, you're welcome to do so. They say, okay. So people choose their piece and they take it home, and in 3 months' time, they know they can change it. The other group, they say, you choose one of these pieces of art, and that's yours to keep. You can't change your mind. Then at the 3-month mark, they survey all of the people. They ask the people if they want to change their mind. Some of them do, some of them don't. The levels of satisfaction, and the people had to rate the pieces of art, how much they liked them, right? The people who chose the piece of art and were not allowed to change their mind afterwards rated their love of the piece of art that they took home far higher than the people that were allowed to change their mind. So it really speaks to this idea that choosing and doubling down on choice is, for most humans, it's like a confirmation bias that we have. And knowing that by choosing something and deciding to choose it and not change your mind, you're actually more satisfied with the choice that you make. And I think in the past that's something that I've had trouble with. I travel constantly.
Yeah.
And not choosing a place to ground has its own costs. Like it's cognitively expensive to
Very,
hold a lot of
very,
options
Very, yeah.
in your mind. And so I think that this...
Temporally expensive as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, it's kind of choice is a funny one because it's a false... it's false to think that you're going to make a choice and then you're not going to have another choice to make in an hour's time, in a day's time, in a week's time. Like, life is just constantly choosing different things based on what we want and what we can have.
Yeah.
So I think that the only like way that we kind of fall or fail this is to like not make a choice. And it's not even necessarily a failure. It's just like a failure to move.
Well, it's a failure to be present, because when we don't make choices, it's because we don't believe that we have the choice. You know? Like, I guess to illustrate this example, I can think of like somebody who is at a music event and feels insecure about their dancing, right? And they could just sit there the entire time and be like, I'm not dancing because I don't know how to dance. Right, but it's really a choice of whether or not you want to dance, because like dancing isn't, you don't have to have a skill. Like anybody can do it at any time, right?
You can just move.
Right, and I think this example works because it's like, if you are present with the fact that it's just like uncomfortable but still doable, then you could dance or not dance, you know?
And it comes back to this locus of control thing, this agency thing. It's like, if you believe that you have the ability to make a choice, then you usually make choices and you feel much better about being able to do that. And it's a practice.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. It's a skill.
For sure.
I remember hearing a interview with Barack Obama, and he was basically saying that his whole job is to make decisions, and that he waits until he has enough information that he can make a choice, and that just means 51%. He has to be 51% certain of something, decide. And I think that like is a really good way to approach decisions in life, because like there is no objective right and wrong choice. There is doing the best we can with what we have.
Yeah, especially considering the silly game we just played that brings into perspective how little we actually comprehend and think about like the endless multitude of possible decisions and possible factors to any given decision, and it's like you're never going to be 100% sure.
If you were, speaking of silly games, if you were to have a cult, what 3 values are important?
We're talking about like virtues?
Virtues, yeah.
Virtues. Oh, I gotta pick just 3.
Yeah, you're only allowed 3.
Man.
3 to 5, I'll say.
3 to 5.
And we're going to play this game again tomorrow, so this isn't the definitive answer.
Right on. Well, I thought I have to choose. I thought that's where I get the good stuff, is by choosing when I can't change.
You do choose, but what I'm doing by saying we're going to play it tomorrow is saying that there's no right answer and you get to choose now.
Okay. The first one that comes to mind is definitely... It's truth, but more than truth, it's honesty, sincerity.
Sincerity.
Yeah.
Okay.
We value you giving, expressing yourself in whatever you perceive, because it's always an approximation, right? To be the most honest version of how you can be. The most sincere version of how you can be.
Okay.
Right? And if the group decides you're wrong, then we'll correct you without judgment.
Okay.
Right? I think that's really, really paramount for trust and progress and growth for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think the second virtue would be see, I could be really silly with this, but I'm not currently. I could be absurdly silly with this. I think the second virtue would be
you can be silly too if you want.
the second virtue would be accountability. Yeah. I think that it would be, I think it goes hand in hand with the sincerity piece, but it is its own thing of holding other people accountable and taking accountable for your own both positive decisions, choices, and also your mistakes. And then the third virtue would be promiscuity.
Sincere, accountable, and promiscuous. Man, it's gonna be a crazy little corner of the world you live in. Sounds pretty wholesome, though.
Promiscuous could work if you had the other two, like, down pat.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Because you could be promiscuous with your partner.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I thought promiscuous just meant, I thought it was a euphemism for being a slut.
You could be a slut with your partner.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'd like to make clear that being a slut is not a bad thing. I'm just...
I don't think that being a slut is a bad thing, but I think if we're talking about, like, objective definitions, being a whore is a bad thing. Because I think whore, and I could be wrong, but I think whore comes with the, it comes with an aspect of manipulation. Using sexual desire to manipulate others for personal gain.
Interesting.
I could be wrong, but that's the way that I perceive the difference between a whore and a slut.
Oh, yeah. I thought a whore was just somebody who sold sex.
That's, yes. But I think that you can sell sex for things other than money.
Yeah, I think we're getting caught in the semantics of...
Oh, I love the semantics, brother. But, yeah, we don't need to stay there.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And that's not even necessarily to shame, like, sex workers, because I know that doesn't do any good. But I know, I guess this isn't something that I've thought about enough to really give distinct answers on, so I can drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a really nice skill to have, is to go like, I don't know enough about this to have like a strong opinion about it.
Yeah.
You know? I've seen it happen a few times in professional contexts where, like, sometimes the most empowering thing or the most beautiful way to navigate a situation is just, I've seen someone say like, look, I really don't know the answer to that. It's not.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you engrave this?
My previous partner engraved that for me and gave it to me as a gift. And it's one of my favorite things on the planet.
This is so nice. It's a leather tobacco pouch with James and a lion engraved in it.
Yeah.
And what looks like a devil.
That was a doodle. Yeah.
A doodle.
Yeah. That was one of my war doodles. Yeah, I accidentally left that behind once and drove like probably 15 kilometers away before I realized it. And the state that put me in was like near panic.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Nostalgic about objects.
Yeah. Do you have any objects that? Because especially as a traveler, like you've got a small sort of bag to keep sentimental items in.
My mostly I don't have objects that I'm very attached to.
Okay.
Mostly I have this mentality that things are things and that they'll be used and that we should take care of them, but that eventually, everything departs. One of my kind of favorite things to do is if I have something and somebody else will really enjoy it more. Like, I like the, again, coming back to economics, sometimes they talk about like maximum utility of things. And I think about the maximum happiness of a thing, of an object, even if it's not my happiness.
Right.
So sometimes I will own something. I've done this, I don't know, I can't count how many times. But a lot of the things that I've had, I've got a story for it. Okay. So I was going to a dress-up party and a mutual friend of ours, Tim, had, I'd asked him when he was shopping if he found any crowns or any hats, if he could get one for me, because it would go with my outfit. And I was traveling and I think I was flying somewhere. I was flying from Portugal to London to go to a Halloween party.
Okay.
Not to go to a Halloween party, but I was going to land there and go to a Halloween party. Right. And I had a very small bag, so I wore this costume on the flight. And I was dropping off my rental car. And Tim had got me this crown.
Wait, I need more of a visual. Describe the costume, please.
So, this is a costume that I got at a thrift store in Sintra, and it's a relatively bright yellow and blue striped.
So it's the one that I know.
Jacket. It's the one that you've seen. It's the one that you know. Bright jacket with like big shoulders and a white collar, and then pantaloons that are like these big blue round things. So I'm wearing this on the flight because there's not enough room in my bag for it.
Please tell me that the crown was very tall.
The crown was a plastic crown that was not very tall. It was maybe 6 inches.
Okay.
And so I'm wearing this ridiculous outfit, and I return my rental car. I get in the van that takes me from the rental car place to the airport, and I'm in the van with this family. And it's late at night. I think it's, 8 p.m. or something like that. And this family have been traveling for a long time. And it's mum and dad and a baby and a little girl who's like, 7 or 8 or something like that. And I hear her saying to her parents, like, oh my God, that guy is wearing a crown. and
they're like, don't talk to that guy.
Basically, I'm like, oh man, I'm aware like how this might come across. But at one stage, we get out of the van and I thank the driver, and then I turn to the family and I'm like, excuse me, little girl, would you like this? It seemed like you were really excited about it, and I will get far less enjoyment out of it than you will. And she was like, oh my God. And so I gifted the crown to this little girl, and then like left and went and got on my flight. And I didn't have the crown for the party,
right?
Which honestly really nice for Tim to get it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had the joy of wearing it for a little while. And then I gave it to someone who was obviously really, like, way more excited about it than I would have been.
Yeah.
And the feeling of generosity that I got from that, and knowing that she would have, like, felt like a princess flying home to wherever they were going was such a nice thing.
Yeah. I think I love that story.
Maximum happiness.
It's stories like that, and like in situations like that make me really, like you just described, like what makes me so excited about having children. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. To just vicariously enjoy that excitement, right?
Yeah.
Like that awe, that amazement of things that we just take for granted, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that process of gifting. In Morocco, gifting is huge, and like barter and exchange,
Is
right?
it?
Huge, yeah, huge. And they at a cultural level understand that giving a gift is something you do for yourself, because of that feeling that you get of being able to give somebody something that they're truly going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I really appreciated from my experience there, because one of the men that I had the pleasure of going to war with.
You also need to put this going to war in context, because right now it sounds like you went to war in Morocco, which is not actually true. You just felt like you went to war.
We both did. But yeah, so some more context is, I think I already gave the context of, I was trying to help somebody that ended up scamming me. That person, at the point where I realized that they were malintentioned, had already deeply ingrained themselves into a partnership dynamic on a building in Morocco that had slowly taken responsibility for renovating, managing the renovation of, and then turning into a functional short-term rental. Yeah. And that individual was violent, extremely manipulative of not just me, but anybody in any sort of social context around him.
Wow.
Addicted to cocaine, which didn't find out until much later, obviously. He was able to, I mean, I gave this information, which I didn't realize would be something to manipulate me on at the time, but that my best friend since childhood, he passed away last year from addiction, and cocaine was a drug of choice in that dynamic. And so him knowing that, he made a very adamant effort to make sure that I had no awareness of his cocaine habit. But yeah, so extricating myself in my business from a lifelong professional scammer, and finding myself in foreign land where I don't speak the language, and having a audacious objective of pulling off something like a building renovation in the third world, to be ready for guests who will actually spend money on a product like that, with timescales that I was very humbled by, being American-minded and trying to get things done in Morocco during Ramadan, when everybody's fasting and hungry and cranky and all of the things, and budgets that were assessed very poorly, first by the individual who was using the budgets to scam me, and then by me, who had not enough information to accurately craft a budget. And it put me into so many situations where I had seemingly not enough resources, and had to create the resources and the situations just out of sheer willpower, at the sacrifice of sleep, at the sacrifice of nutrition, at the sacrifice of exercise at the sacrifice of like having time to even fucking do simple things like listen to music or like get coffee with somebody or like read a book or like my entire cognitive and physical being were devoted to the sole mission of winning against this guy who had made himself my enemy.
Yeah.
And also conquering the task of taking a very decrepit building and making it suitable for guests to stay in with, like I said, almost none of the resources. One of the resources that I did have and still have is Ayub. And Ayub, I call him Mama Ayub because of his very nurturing nature.
Nice.
And he was absolutely instrumental in me. Like if he was not there and we had not, and we did so fairly quickly, we had developed like he doesn't speak English, I don't speak Arabic, but we had established like a mutual recognition of character and done that in a quick enough amount of time to where, and I say a quick enough amount of time, I mean like 2 weeks, right? Of kind of working side by side once I decided to start getting my hands dirty with this project, to where he was kind of the only support I had, and I decided that it was enough to continue once I found out that this guy was a motherfucker. Yeah, Ayub, to paint out more of like who this incredible human is, he brought me to his home village in like a tiny, and I say village, like tiny village, on the outskirts of Terudant, which is in like mountain desert region of southern Morocco, for the celebration of Eid al-Fitr, which is it's kind of like Christmas for them.
Okay.
It's the end of the fasts of Ramadan.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot behind it, right? A lot of energy, and everybody gets together. Everybody's in each other's houses. Everybody's eating and enjoying, and like, coming to a lot, like with a lot of gratitude for like being able to enjoy these things after a month of fasting. And gift giving is just like a natural thing for them, like not only among family members, but especially to a visitor.
Yeah.
Right. So like these people, when I say village, like, to a lot of Westerners, like it doesn't look like they have anything, right? Because I'm looking through a lens that's looking for these community pieces that are different than what the West typically looks for, I can see how much they really have, and like the connection that they have with each other, and the amount of time that they get to spend with each other, and the amount of support that they have from each other. But materially, they really don't have anything, but they're finding things to give to me because of, and like I could see the joy that they were getting from being able to find something for this person that they barely know to take and enjoy with them on their journey. And I got to be on the reciprocal end of that, because I was like, wow, like I want to participate in this, in this energetic exchange. And I had this shirt, which is like a ridiculously expensive, like nice shirt that I do enjoy wearing. But I was like, I thought of one person in particular, I'm like, a relative of Ayub, but I'm like, he would look so fucking good in this shirt. And he's always like combed hair, like lined up, and he's like got a handsome ass face and stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna put that on him. And he was so stoked. And then when I saw him wearing it, I was like, way more joy than I could have ever gotten out of the million times, well, not a million, we talk about context, but the fucking thousands of times that I could have worn that shirt in the future myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We get a lot. But it's the reframe of realizing how much you gain from paying it forward.
Yeah.
From giving, yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2 things. My energy's fading a little bit.
Right on.
Usually I have a question from my previous guest.
Oh.
But I don't remember what it is. And I didn't write it down. That's on me, being an unorganized.
How often do you remember the question?
Well, usually I'm sitting in front of a computer and not doing this in nature.
Right.
I'm really glad we're doing this in nature. But if you have a question for the next person that I have a conversation with.
See, I have listened to your podcast, so I know that this is a thing, and I failed to prepare equally in that I don't have any sort of question.
That's all right. I don't prepare anybody.
Great.
And most of the reason is that we're humans and this is unscripted and
beautiful. I want to know, I want you to ask your next guest I guess it's more of a prompt than a direct question, but I want your next guest to describe a time that they can remember from childhood, and the boundaries that I'm going to put on childhood is less than 10 years old.
Okay.
That is a salient memory of them enjoying nature. And I want them to paint that out and tell me why that memory has stuck with them, and to try to describe in detail how it felt to be there.
Beautiful. In your childhood.
All right. Shit.
Well, before you were 10 years old, can you describe a salient memory of being in nature and tell me how it felt?
Yes. The one that's coming to mind right now is that my younger brother and I, he's about 2 years younger than me, we spent a lot of time on the shore of Lake Tahoe when we were younger, because our grandmother used to live very close to the lake up there, and we would go in the summers, which was absolutely bananas. Like, the things that we would get up to, because like our itinerary for the day would be to like spend all day at the lake.
Go to the lake.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah. So the amount of like cosplay that we did with nothing but sticks and pretending to be Indians and cowboys or whatever, there was a lot of that. But the specific memory that I'm having right now is that one of the things that we did to amuse ourselves is that our guardians or chaperones, the combination of my mother, my grandmother, and my older cousin, had supplied us with these metal fishing traps that were designed to catch crawdads, which are like crayfish, right? And so us, both also being fairly aquatic, would put on full snorkel gear and spend all day just taking deep breaths and finding different spots to catch, like the blue crawdad, the red crawdad, the big one, the smallest one, and we would have just this massive assortment of sea bugs or lake bugs in buckets and stuff, and we would have like tons of them on the beach. And it got to the point where we were like, okay, what do we do with them? And I can remember the moment of being in the sun. Mom is just like lounging on the beach, you know, letting her kids do exactly what little boys should be doing at this age. And the look of disgust, and then the breaking of the like adultness on her face that went through when she saw my brother and I sticking the crawdads in our mouths tail first, so that the claws would be sticking out like this, and trying to get them to fight each other while staring each other in the eye.
It tracks.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Do you want to take a stab at answering that one, or are we going to call it a wrap?
I want to call it a wrap.
Right on. Pleasure, sir.
It's been a real pleasure. Part of me thinks that we might have exhausted the battery.
You think so?
I
You think
don't know.
that take was longer than the first one?
No idea.
I think, to me, intuitively, it feels shorter.
I saw you playing with that log and choosing whether or not to break it.
Nah, that one's 53 minutes.